Welcome, everyone, to Click Moments in Passionate Pursuits, The Unfolding, where intuitively guided conversations are followed with feral faith, enthusiasm, and joy, bringing new insights, inspiration, and perspectives along the way. And we're your hosts, Beth
and Bridget Burns.
And as usual, we're excited today about today's topic. And we're going to start with a story because I always feel like a story is an awesome way to start a discussion. And then we are going to start sharing some of these ideas. And if you're wondering what we're going to be talking about today, just a little teaser, it's going to be about trusting your intuition, doing something new, and how every single thing that happens is for you. We're going to talk more about what that means. So we're going to start with the story. You want to start? You want me to start?
Well,
why don't you start?
Yeah, I was just going to jump into it. So thanks for permission.
As if needed.
So we had planned for a while to go to this concert together. And we've been talking about it on the podcast if you've been paying attention. But the intro and outro music to this podcast are by a band called Cloud Called. And they're from Minnesota. And we saw that they were playing a free summer concert in Virginia. And we were like, first of all, we love Cloud Called. If they're playing somewhere near us, we're going, period.
Yes, because we've never seen them before.
No, we'd never seen them. So this is really exciting. Second of all, it's free and outdoor, which is awesome. And third, it's in a location where it's like equidistant almost for both of us to travel, meet for a weekend. Yeah, easy drive, beautiful location. So we did it.
No brainer.
Yeah.
So we get there. Now, mind you, we're going to do other things, but we really don't have a lot planned because we're going for the concert. Like, we just want to spend time together. We're going for the concert. So this was really important to us. So we notice as we get closer, because it's an outdoor concert, we're like, we're a little bit nervous because the weather's starting to be a little cloudy, but it reassures us earlier in the morning that there is no rain in sight, just a little bit cloudy. We're like, no big deal. We love the clouds, right? So we're like, that's fine. But we decide that we are interested in scoping out ahead of time what the venue looks like, because we want to know, like, can we bring chairs? What kind of setup is there going to be? We want to be prepared. So we get there at what? 2:00? It's a 7:30 concert. Maybe earlier.
Yeah. Somewhere very early afternoon.
Early afternoon, right. So we are there way early, and it's a soccer field. And we we went way early to see the soccer field. We walked there, but then we came back and drove by. Yep. And it was when we were driving by, because we thought somebody else would be playing first. Nobody else was playing. It was just going to be Cloud Cult, and they were setting up.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh my God, they're setting up. And I get excited. I'm like, this is our chance to meet them. I'm so excited. I just want to go up and say hi. And what happens?
Well, we pull up and I pull into an open spot, which is right next to the stage. Like, we're facing them. She's like, you're going to park right here? Like, they're staring at us. And I'm like, oh God, I can't do this. Like, I don't know. What are we going to do? We're going to get out of the car and just walk up to them while they're setting up. So I have
and you're like, you go, what are we going to say? And I said, hello.
Good plan. That sounds like a great plan.
And then Bobby starts barking. Yes. And viciously, he's like, rawr. And I'm like, you know what? And you're like, I just don't feel good about this. And I was like, okay, like, I don't want, if I was not feeling comfortable, I wouldn't want to be pushed to do that. And so I was like, okay, this isn't the right time, because if it's for us, it would feel good for both of us, right? Yeah. And it didn't. So we went ahead and left, and we were like, okay, we'll see him tonight at the concert. It's going to be great. So I have friends that we met beforehand, and we were right up till the end of when we needed to leave. And so we were like, we got back to our hotel with a pizza. We're like scarfing it down so that we can hurry up because we fit in. We wanted to make sure to do that, but we're also transitioning. And it's 45 minutes until it's going to start. And Bridget looks at her phone on Instagram and it says canceled.
Yep.
And we're both like, oh man. And you immediately say, well, let's go. I
Yeah.
mean, they just posted this just now. They're on stage. We're literally 2 minutes away.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, let's go. So we head in the car, we go down there, and the whole time, like right immediately, my first response was, oh, this is not gonna, this isn't gonna work out. And then I remembered that everything is for us. Everything is for us. So I just got curious and I got excited and I was like, wait, everything is for us. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know if it deals with, cloud cult, but something's happening that's for us right now. Right. So we pull up and you go by, go
It was
ahead.
thunderstorming at this point, by the way.
Totally
Full
thunderstorming.
on like torrential rain thunderstorming. Okay. So I
I
pull up.
mean, yeah. And what do you say to me?
Get out because there's a pavilion and there's people under the pavilion and they're playing. They're
Cloud
under
cult's
the
playing.
pavilion playing.
Yes.
And I look at her, I'm just like, get out, go.
You go, I'll park the car, I'll meet you. And I was like, okay. So I jump out and go running towards the pavilion. And then maybe 30 seconds later, she joins me. And we find ourselves in an intimate 75 to 100 people max ish pavilion that has Cloud Cult, unplugged, acoustic, being their generous, kind as they are selves, connecting with all of us that they recognized and honored as being like really extensions of themselves, like that had come from all over and driven far to see this band, to see them play, because we all I believe that we feel their energy.
Yeah.
I believe that there is a way that they are that we were drawn to. And we got this intimate 30-minute Cloud Cult acoustic jam session.
Sing
And it
along.
was spectacular. It
Beautiful.
was total sing along. It was beautiful.
Today's a good day to screw it all and just smile. Doesn't matter how I fall, that's not even how they keep score. I think you're brave, 'cause we gave up the game, choosing the high road. We get so dang hard on us, it's time to feel okay. Today could be a different kind of day.
And we got to, if we were invited to go meet Craig. So we stood in line and we got to connect with him and thank him for allowing us to utilize There's So Much Energy in Us, which if you haven't heard that song, highly recommend it. It's
Yeah, go listen.
beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. And so it allowed for us to connect with him. And that's really all we wanted, was to be able to say thank you, right? And to make that connection because they were important to us in our lives with their music and what that's given language to, right? So what an amazing experience that would not have happened had we had a whole full hour and a half concert probably. And then we left, realized we forgot merchandise in our excitement, came back, and they didn't have our sizes and we didn't worry about it. But we saw the women in where they were, like where the stage was with the flap closed, and they were dancing and they were having a good time. And so we went over and like kind of like went like this underneath, and they were so gracious and came out took a selfie with us. We said thank you. Again, that's all we really wanted, was to thank them, because we wanted them to recognize they came from all over the country too.
Yeah, it's not
They
just
came to fly in for a free concert,
yeah.
and they weren't even able to gift that to us, but they weren't frustrated by that travel, and nor were we. We were all finding ourselves in a position to be drawn to like-minded people that were just being in the moment.
Yeah, it was a total spiritual experience. I mean, I think
It was.
there were so many people who were so touched. It was just incredible. It was such a gift to get to be part of. And
Yeah,
it is who they really are. I mean,
right.
it just shows you. He had another, let's see, 15 hours to drive the next day in the next 24 hours. So he could have very easily said, good, we get
Peace
ahead
out.
and let's go, let's pack it up and get out of here. But that's not who they are.
Right.
And we appreciate that.
And not only is it not who they are, but then they posted something that is a quote that is part of what we really want to talk about today. It really inspired some further discussion. And here's the thing: we've been talking about how, one of my reservations about being what other people call influencer, which basically just means somebody who has something to say and it might actually be inspiring to people, right? Let's just call it, I'd rather define it, right?
Yeah.
Because so many people in my life have paused, like, because they've shared what they've shared, it's impacted my life. And I've been reluctant to share because I perceive them as being like on lockdown with it. And I'm not on lockdown with it. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. Um, and I don't even know if I'm supposed to try to figure it out, but I know that I am wired in that way and it is who I am. And I love every second of it. And I never expect to get there. I just want to experience it all and witness it all and share it all and learn together about what it means. And so when I share the story, I'm fully aware that even the meaning that I ascribe to it is not necessarily going to be the meaning that somebody else will get. And that's beautiful, right? There's so much meaning making through the person, right? So we want to share this quote that was at the end of their video. It says, I hope you make the best of it. And I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you've never felt before. I hope you live a life you're proud of. If you find that you're not, I hope you have the strength to start it all over again. That sentiment is embedded in the work that both of us do. It's like who we are. And because it's who we are, it's how we show up for people in the world. We know what it feels like to be frustrated and uncertain and afraid, and you do it anyway, right? You do it anyway.
Yeah, I think so that really struck me because they shared the video of this experience and had said something like, this one will never forget. And then put that quote, and that quote really gripped me because I thought, oh my gosh, this is our story. Like both of us have done exactly that. And not that we weren't proud of the life, but
Mm,
that we knew that there was something that was gripping us, that was calling us, that would light us up. And I think I really honestly believe that everyone, at least at one point or another in their life, feels that. But what it takes to actually follow that is an unbelievable strength. Um, I think that honestly, for me, that strength came out of the fear. Like the fear birthed that strength. I was
mm,
so scared that I wasn't going to survive that now all of a sudden that fear of doing something different paled in comparison to the fear of I might not make it.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden it kind of cast it in a new light. It made it look so much smaller.
And I wanna pause for the listener because they may not understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a 2018
Yeah.
incident where you had a medical crisis and
Yeah.
you weren't yeah, I just wanna make sure that it doesn't
Yeah. Thank
attach
you for
to
rooting that.
Cloud Cult and the lightning.
Yeah, no, I was told I was in heart failure. This was my visit to the hospital after I'd had my fourth child, and was told I was in heart failure, and really had a moment of thinking that I might not actually make it. And so the fear of that made the fear of doing something different that I had been wrestling with seem so much more tame in comparison. And I had this conversation with God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. It was just this overwhelming sense of love that I felt that was like, oh my gosh, if I'm this deeply loved, I can do anything. Like
Mm,
there's nothing that, like, we're so loved, so unconditionally loved. There's nothing we can do to mess that up. Like we're allowed to go out and try something different.
mhm. Right.
Um And then I have to add this on, and I'm going to tack this on real quickly because it just, when we get a message from the universe or from spirit, it just keeps layering on pieces that are for us. So I'm reading at your urging, I'm listening to Everything is Spiritual by Rob Bell. And he says in the book, he's talking about going through the same kind of experience in his life. And he says, he he prayed a prayer of now what, and
Mm,
at first it was a plea and then it became a curious, ooh, now
yeah,
what if
right.
I try this? And his
Yeah,
question, what if I try this, I was like, oh my God, that's it, that's what people need to hear. Because
yeah.
you're not starting all over again and totally changing your entire self. It's just getting to try something different, and if we approach it with curiosity and excitement and playfulness and joy, that's what it is. Like that's how life is meant to be, joyful and
Mhm.
abundant.
I'm glad you mentioned the now what because there is a you can go, "Oh, now what?"
Yeah.
Or you can go, "Now what?"
Right.
I love doing this. This is like my friends know this is the international sign for, "Uh-oh, this is gonna be fine. What's here?" But there is something like in the going back to our experience in, Virginia, we had that moment where we could have seen it as a closed door, or we could have known that a closed door is always an open door. And if our energy is such that we believe that everything is for us, well, then where's the now what in this?
Yeah.
And so, like, immediately, like, there was that initial reaction for me of, oh, you know, and then I was like, oh, we should have stopped earlier. That was our time. I started going down this spiral. And then I was like, wait, 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 I don't believe that.
I
I
just
know
believe
it doesn't work that way.
I just said everything is for us.
Yeah, right. It was like, wait, that's rubbish. That is the stuff that our brain will tell itself, but it's not true. We always talk about one of the tools that we use is the simple saying, is this true? And it wasn't true. Everything is for us. And it's always seeking us. So if it's meant for us, it will keep giving us an opportunity. So where's the opportunity in this? And then it was that opening and that mindset allowed me to be like, yeah, yeah, I mean, what do we have to lose? And I know, since I know that everything is for us, and there's this inspired excitement in you to go, it's like, yeah, like let's just see. I mean, all we can do is it's nothing's going on. But then we're further down the road, and maybe something else will come up.
Yeah.
That was in my mind too, is maybe like we get there and something else is going on, and it's like, ooh, this is fun. This
Yeah.
is for us. So like meeting somebody that we hadn't met before, whatever it is, I was just like, allowing for whatever that was, and letting go of any outcome that was perceived. Like, the reality is this isn't my first rodeo. I know from going to concerts throughout my life that when you go to a concert, you risk, and especially at an outdoor concert, you risk it could be canceled.
Yep.
Okay. But you have to be willing to take the risk if you're gonna go along with it, if you're gonna play the game, if you're gonna do the thing. There's always gonna be risks, but then do you leave space for something beautiful, something different than what you expected? If I was okay with not having an hour and a half concert, what if the alternative was a half an hour intimate concert under a pavilion with a sing along, and you get to meet the band and connect with beautiful people, not just the band, but the people around. You get to connect with people that are like vibration. People lingered, I think, because of a pre-verbal recognition of that,
Yeah.
that they were in a space where it felt good to be.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, what a beautiful group of humans.
Yeah. It kind of tears me up because as we were like, I was standing up on a bench, and I was watching it, and I was really experiencing it, and I was feeling it. And there was something to the collective allowance of something new happening that none of us had felt before, right? Like, we literally were invited to have an experience that none of us will have. Like, when you have 100 people that are receiving and participating in something like that, that exact formation will never be like that again, you know? And it's like, I feel those moments so deeply. Like, I recognize them for, like, the beautiful, beautiful moment of now that it is, you know? And it's like, and it always comes from those moments of recognition of the awe of now, right? Do you remember on the way there? So on the way there, I was not leaving until like 5 o'clock at night. I was going to get in at almost 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was going into a thunderstorm, and I could have been like, oh man, it was beautiful. And then all of a sudden it was dark and heavy, and you could see the rain in the distance. And I was going through the mountains. And instead of being nervous, I was like, this looks beautiful. And I connected with energy and spirit and was like giving thanks for this beauty that I could see in the dark clouds and the contrast. And I could see the deep olive greens of the trees. And I was like noticing it. And then all of a sudden, when I was giving thanks, like a ray of light and then multiple rays of light came through the mountain, over the top of this mountain, came through, and it landed on the green of the trees, and it illuminated it this different color green. And I was like, and it reminded me of where I had just been. I'm a photographer, and I had an exhibition going on, and I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of the pictures that I've taken in the exhibit, where each one of them is in the moment that I'm giving gratitude, deep gratitude for a moment. It lights up even more, and it becomes like and I describe it as like my interior becomes exterior. The emotions that I'm feeling in the landscape inside becomes visible externally with whatever I'm around, right? And so seeing this light come through, it's gorgeous. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could take this moment like a picture, but I snapped it in my mind instead. And all of a sudden, these white birds started in a flock, flew out of somewhere in trees and flew into the ray of light. And they were just like this beautiful, like, flock of birds. It was this whole thing that I was like, and then I turn around to look at the sun. I'm like going like this because I'm driving in the mountains. And I turn around to look, and it's the brightest, brightest orange glow right before it hits the top, the sunset is hitting the top of the mountain, and it's going through the dark clouds are going over the top of it, and it's like a yin and yang. It's so beautiful, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is incredible." And it's like, I think those moments, and this is where it goes back to cloud cult, and I hope you see things that startle you. We can't see things that startle us and allow us to feel awe and connected to the divine unless we're willing to see the divine in the situations that aren't exactly as we would want them.
Yep.
There's like something to this is slightly dangerous, or this is slightly off, or this isn't what I want. But I forgot about that because it's so pretty. What's what's here? What now what?
You know, you just, when you said that, I was like, can't think. I cannot think of a single spiritual story from any tradition that I know of and can conjure up that starts with everything was beautiful and perfect. Not a single one. Every single one of them that I know
Mm.
is this was messed up, or this went wrong, or whoops, or literally every single one of them. It starts with something wasn't necessarily right in the eyes of the person beholding or involved in that situation. And I think that for some reason is the invitation for like the divine to really show off.
Yeah.
Because when everything's going well and it's beautiful, we almost don't see it. But when there's
Okay.
contrast, okay, go ahead.
No, 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 no. Go ahead.
When there's the contrast of the darkness or something discordant, and then the light shows up, then we deeply see it. And it's almost startling.
Well, we don't have any base of comparison. Most of us in our life, when something has been stark or dark and not what we want, a lot of times in my life, it's the stance of grin and bear it,
Mm,
push through. I'm strong enough to get through this, but it's a stance of perseverance.
mm,
That's a very different stance than allowing yourself to see the beauty and expecting the beauty to be there, even though you've never gone through this before. We don't have a thread to attach it to. Like in that situation, I've never been on a downhill in Virginia. By the way, in the same stretch that just had a sign that said, "This is the most fatalities in the state." And I have seen a semi turned over in that stretch, and I've been responsive to it and came out and helped a driver in traffic and traffic stuff. So this is the stretch that is the thread is short, but what's there is tenuous. So I'm in that stretch and I'm going down a hill and a storm is coming. Yet I'm a version of me now that isn't pulling from what's wrong with this situation, but where's like I'm excited about what's before me. And I'm not letting what has been stop me from seeing the beauty of now. And I also have a lot of cords to pull from where something really dark and devastating that there's still beauty in those moments, right? There's still beauty in those moments, like birth, death. These are dangerous moments. These are there's a lot that's happening that's got a lot of strong emotions, but there's still always beauty if we can allow for it. And even in a storm, like I believe, and this is just what I believe is that even if that ray of light, I don't know if that ray of light was related to the collective energy of whoever was in that circumstance of this scene, but I do believe that I wouldn't have always seen the beauty of that in that moment, as opposed to my determination to see the storm, telling myself, oh, it's prudent for you to be prepared and watch the storm and gather data. You know what? I'll deal with the storm if and when it comes, you know, however long it's there. But I'm still going to, in this moment, see, like, those two beautiful moments are like seared in me. Like it was wild. It was like Jurassic Park wild. Like literally like this something I'd never seen before. And it was like a startle response is an absence of air where you're like, you gasp. That's part of the startle. That's what I did. I was like, in this moment, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful, right? And I think it's in that space where it's like, back to this quote, I feel like there's so many people that want something different for their life. And because there's not a path already created, because there's so much uncertainty, even if it's a path, like even if you keep doing the same thing but you relatively know what's going to happen, there's a desire to stay in the discomfort of the known than there is to forge out and try something new. And this is the thing, I hope you have the strength to start all over again. And it's like, it does take strength to start all over again, but it also takes strength to stay the path. And we get to choose how we use the very same strength. We can get to do something new and go, now what? Or we can do the same old thing and grin and bear it. And that's a different type of strength, but it's still strength. It's just we get to choose what strength looks like.
Yeah, that's so important. It's like, how is it getting applied? But it's going to take it either way.
It's going to take it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to give kudos to anybody who stays a path that is hard and arduous. Like, if you say it's hard and you say it's arduous and you say it's your path, then it is. And that's where you get to spend your strength. But if you have, you get to make it, if you get to make a different decision and freedom is yours, then you get to start all over and you get to see what's there. You get to say, now what?
Yeah.
After your biggest, I think about that, like, you know, when I've lost different people in my life that were important to me. You know, there are moments that you're like, I'm never going to be the same again. No, I'm not. I'm not going to be the same again. I have to redefine myself. I have to find a new me. I have to learn to live with that pain and be happy anyway. To find the joy anyway.
Yeah.
To do something new and not like it. To do something new and love it. I don't know. But I get to walk that path. And the more we walk it, and ideally, and I think this is huge for people, for the love of God, don't do it yourself. My introverts out there, my introverts out there, when we do it on our own, we can, but it requires so much energy and so much correction because we don't have enough other experience to pull from. Bridget and I both are involved in a Tuesday night group that we lead and co-facilitate, and we learn from other people's experience and they learn from our experience. It is a social learning center. And that allows for us to multiply the learning curve. We talk about how it takes 400 repetitions of a concept before it becomes embodied. Well, if you're talking about it and somebody else is talking about it and somebody else is talking about it, then that gets me to the 400 quicker than me having to come up with 400 rotations of my own learning. So, other people, it's not just about the contribution to you, but it's about the service to others, and it's about having support and a different line of sight as we're moving forward. Like, it's crucial. I mean, there's a lot of people, I don't know, 7 or 8 people in Cloud Cult, the band. It's not just Craig, it's a band. They support each other,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's so much. Like, what did you say the other day about the joy multiplied?
Oh, yeah. So something that I like to say, this is just my experience of it, but we can have joy and keep it to ourselves and it's still joy, but joy shared is joy multiplied. So
Mhm.
there's something about like we specifically in that Tuesday group, we share wins with each other. And man, does it feel so good, not just to share your win and have others like affirm you, but to listen to how other people are having and experiencing wins. And all of a sudden, like you feel like you won too. Like
Yeah.
just hearing their stories, it's like, oh my gosh, we're all doing these things and we all get to share in that. And wow, does that feel so good? It's like
Yes.
a application of joy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Dave the other day, our both of our we go to the same gentleman for spiritual direction, and I think he said a joy shared is a joy multiplied, and um, what is that? A stress or something that happens to you is divided when it's shared,
Oh, I love
and that's
that.
yeah. And so it's like when I share something that's happened to me with you,
Mhm.
then it's lessened for me
Yeah.
because I've shared it, right? But then that means you've shown up to take that half.
Yeah.
And so when people talk about thank you for giving me a space or being there, it's like they feel the load off of them. But we as people who show up in those situations are aware that we can take some of those things on, and we have to be very cognizant about that sharing and that social responsibility and sharing, right?
Yeah. You reminded me of when I was making last little over a year ago when I was making some really big decisions of how I was going to move forward in my life, given who I knew myself to be and where I was. I already knew my decision. We tend to do this thing as humans, like we already know the path we're going to take, like we have it decided. But I went to multiple therapists and shared with multiple people. And they're like, well, it sounds like you know what you want to do. But for some reason, I just needed other people to enter into that with me, even though I already
Mm.
knew what I was going to do.
Yeah.
There's something about not just taking it on yourself. It's like, I don't know, it's like the safety in a pack, right? You're like, I'm doing this thing and it's really dangerous and it feels like I don't know how I'm going to get through it. So maybe if I just surround myself with some other people who know I'm doing the thing, then I'll be okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like for me when it happens, I'm like, okay, if I share it, share it, share it, share it. Am I good? Am I good? Anybody else got a line of sight? Anybody else like you got something I haven't like their reaction in being with me ground me in it because it makes me feel like I trust these people. If they're having a, hey, have you thought about this or have you thought about that or blah blah blah, I'm like, by the time I share it, I feel good about it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like I'm good. It's less anxiety moving forward when I get additional perspectives because I know not everybody's going to see it the same as I do, you know? And so that's helpful.
Oh, I will say this though, and we talked about this. This came up when we were discussing this starting all over and doing something different. I said, watch out because you may share your idea with someone, and the only lens that they may have to react to that idea might be fear.
Mhm.
Because all they've got, they don't have a life framework where what you're saying you want to do fits. They're like, okay, nope, never seen that one before. That's a little scary.
Yeah.
And their only reaction might be, are you sure you want to do that? This could happen and that could happen. And so I know you had people
Hmm.
lovingly who responded in that way because they just wanted to make sure you were going to be okay.
Yeah.
Same thing with me. I had colleagues who were like, well, what do you mean you're going to leave teaching? What are you going to do? Do you have a job lined up? You have 4 kids now. And I was like, I don't know, but I can't do this anymore.
Not this.
Not this.
Sometimes the not this is the closed door for the opening.
Yeah.
The
But
universe needs to know that energetically, not this.
right. But I know so many people, and I give these people so much credit who stick it out and keep going and keep going. But the dissonance within me got to such a high level that my physical body was not coping with that.
Hmm.
Like it was shutting down under
Yeah.
the weight of that dissonance. And so I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't know what the other option was, but I knew that I just needed to take one step forward of I know that I can't continue working full time in this organization, so I'm going to leave that and then I'll have some breathing room.
Figure it out. Yeah.
My body will start to heal. And once
Absolutely.
it does, then I can evaluate what my next step is. And I'm still here, on the other side of it, 6 years later, and feeling incredible. And I know people who are still doing the same thing and have found ways that work for them to cope with that.
Yeah. No, I
But
think that's a great point. Go ahead.
yeah, but what I will say is I'm the kind of person who's always going to be under construction. My views are always going to be under construction. My lenses, my actions, everything is going to be coming from a motivation of how can I be more love today? But I am going to look different and sound different, look different and sound different and feel different and respond differently. And hopefully it's all growing towards this positive evolution. But I know that people will look and have looked at me in the past when I was growing up and said, I don't understand. You're not the same person you were. You're saying totally different things. I don't understand. I'm like, because I'm growing and I'm changing and I'm learning and I'm trying to do better.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I think we're both, as manifestor generators, right? In our human design, we have, like you pointed out recently, a slightly different orientation to that. So they're not all the same, right? But we both have that desire to create something new, right? To do something completely original. And I was just talking to you recently about the book that I always have 10 different books going on at the same time. I dip into different ones. So I never read one linear, like right straight through, or rarely. Everything is Spiritual is by Rob Bell was the one that I actually did listen to multiple times right through because it's awesome. But one in Originals by Adam Grant and Sheryl Sandberg, I love how they have early on, they talk about this story with Seinfeld. And they talk about how, like, Seinfeld was literally like, shouldn't have been, because if somebody would have been dissuaded by it, it had no other frame of reference. When it came out, they had pilot audiences, it went through several iterations of that. And people just didn't like it because they couldn't fit it into any particular category.
mm,
And because it didn't remind them of anything else, there wasn't a, like, it was like confused, like, who cares what these four people in New York City are doing? It's just like random stories about their life. But somebody, I think it was like an executive, saw it and heard it and was like, we're going to give you 6 episodes to try it, right? And it didn't fare well. It took a long time for Seinfeld to take off. But then when it did, boy, did it. And I think to a certain extent, when people persevere, I think that's an expectation that when you're doing something original, and that's for your own life too, we're each little microcosms that when we do something new and different, it's original to us. And when it's original to us, we don't have another frame of reference. So it can be scary. We can misapply it. We can get it to the wrong audience. We can have it displayed in places where it doesn't work. But that doesn't mean it isn't something that has the potential in the right set of circumstances, in the right soil, in with the right light, that it could actually grow into something amazing, right? So it's if it feels right to us, that's when I'm like, I just got to keep I just got to keep going with it. Like got to like I'm going to keep going now what until it, there's a dead end and I don't feel like there is a dead end. Like it just keeps expanding and opening into me a really curious way, but we have to leave space for, and I don't think we're all wired in this way, just to be honest. I don't think it's even necessarily for all my non-manifestor generators. I don't know, like if it's the same for everybody or not. But I do know that there's a lot of spaciousness for many of us when we're willing to not have a specific outcome and we're just curious about the frenetic energy of creativity or that we get in curiosity. Like that's leading us uniquely somewhere, and that's a quality of expansion that I'm wired for,
Oh my
right?
God. You said that when you said it's just expanding and opening, I was like, oh my God, you just shifted something that I've never thought of before. You know, everyone's always talking about the universe is still expanding, right? It's constantly, it's still moving. Everything in the universe is moving away from everything else. And everyone always wants to know, well, where's the end of it? Where's the outside of it? How far out does it go? Where's the beginning of it? Where is it all moving away from?
Mm.
Where is it expanding from? That's what I want to know.
Hmm.
What caused everything to start to, burst out and expand and open?
Well, while you're exploring that, I'm going to be in the expansion. I'm going to be floating on the cloud of expansion while you're contemplating the origins of us all.
Tell you what, here's my theory, because we're all constantly growing and evolving. My theory is that, and I know this is like so cliche, but it's true, that love is the vibrational force that caused it to burst out, because we think about this and we will actually say, and our words are very powerful, we'll say, I have so much love, it's just bursting out of me. It's like we have to express it, and when we express it, it moves outwards. And so that's my theory anyway.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. The last thing I have on this is that I think wherever you find yourself, and I'm always speaking to myself when I say what I say, because wherever I find myself, it's there's different places at different junctures given my inner landscape at any given time. But I think that when we find ourselves in this place of fear or frustration or hurt, once we do the good work of getting it up and out of us, right, which is important, then I think it's important for us to recognize that it's risky to be alive, that there is a risk that is baked into being in a way that is alive, having aliveness. But there's risk in just being alive. Just by innate, by the fact that we're here doing this thing, right? So if we're going to have strength and it's going to be applied one way or another, and if we're going to have risk one way or another, I would rather risk being fully alive and becoming and doing the things than to risk being alive and miss out on all of these opportunities to be startled and to experience new joy and following what's beyond the curiosity and into the wonder, right? I would rather risk in those really expansive ways than to come to the end of my life and to regret that I didn't fully live.
I will just add that Cloud Cult just released a new album in, I think,
Mm,
July, called Alchemy Creek, and the songs were born of a personal event that Craig was going through. If there's anyone who is either going through something new because they've been kind of thrust into the newness of the situation, or is trying to muster up the courage and strength to go through something new, I strongly recommend you listen to this. And I just want to quote these lyrics from one of their songs. It's called Got Your Backpack, Open That Back Door. It says, "We don't have to do this anymore, though the beginning looks a whole lot like the end. The stars seem brighter than ever before. You know we deserve so much more. Got your backpack, open that back door."
mm, thank you for that.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm going to try to name all the members of Cloud Cult and thank them individually because I think they really deserve it. It was an incredible experience. So thank you to Craig, Connie, Scott, Arlen, Sean, Jeremy, Sarah, Daniel, Matthew, Martin, Dan, Mara, Eduardo, and Sarah. And if I missed anyone, I'm sorry. Thank you to everyone who was there and had a part in curating that beautiful experience. And who else am I missing? I'm blanking for our
And
cover
and
art.
and thank you for yeah, Melissa Moss.
Thank you, Melissa Moss, for our cover art. You can learn more about her at melissamossart.com and go to cloudcult.com or go stream on Spotify. Thank you to all of our listeners. Until next time, peace, love, and light.